Okay, just wanted to show everyone quickly how I finish up this block, and it'll show you how I piece together. So this is the end of the Bit of Flamingo kit. And again, I have a few classes coming up at the Maker's Loft, at Classy Creations, and at A&E Fabrics. So plenty of opportunities to get a fundamental knowledge of foundation paper piecing and to do a block and win some prizes and have a good time together. Okay, so this is the last instruction. This is this is one section, L, and this section has 6 pieces, so you see all those. And when you flip it, everybody together, ooh, ah, very pretty, huh? Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I am going to, in our last instruction, it says on our assembly guide, it says to sew A through K to DL. So this is D7L, and this is A through K. And I'm not going to show you what's on the other side yet because it's part of the big reveal. So now basically these two are going to have to go together. So what I'll end up doing is these are our joining points right here. And so if you can see right there on the corner where the little arrows dissect, that's your joining point. So what I like to do is I take a pin and I will put it right at the corner where I want it to join. So you see that? That is the pin. And then I will put it in the other corner. Remember, you want right sides together. And so, well, this one's a little off-centered, so I'll redo that until I get it just where I want it. There. And so I can join those two sides. So that is one point that has to go together. And then I'll do the other side. So I'll take the other side and I'll do the same thing. Again, with it nice and flat, I will take the pin, put it in the corner where it's supposed to join. There it goes. And I will take my piece, and it's joining in this corner. So I will make sure it goes out on this corner. So now that I have these two corners pinned, I will kind of do the same. I'll start working my way through the long seam. And it's important to take your time on these long seams because it's really where you get the most bang for your buck. And so I'll do the same thing, and I'll make sure that where I pin on one side is going to meet the other side. And once I get a good line going, I'll actually take a sewing clip and pin the piece in place. So I can't sew with these pins, and some people can, I just can't. But you can do that along the whole line. And you definitely want to make sure you do it on the whole line because seams can move. Things can be seemingly out of place. Now here, I kind of lost my line because of the fabric. So I'm going to press the I believe button right now. And then what I'll do is I'll find a spot where I do have a seam on each side, or I have the line on each side. And so I'm on this side, but I'm a little off on this side, so I will put that in the right place. All right, and now I'm back on track. And so I will get another sewing clip and put it in place. I'll just start taking off this end. Now that I have sewing clips there, I'm pretty good. And so I'll just do that along the line, making sure that I hit the right spot on both sides, which is the tricky part, and it's time consuming. But there's nothing sadder than a misplaced seam, especially with these legit kits. Like, that's how you get these flawless finishes. And so I take the time, you know, to pin in place, even though it might take forever, and it's just for one seam, which is, you know, crazy. Now, I don't do this each time. I only do this, I mean, I do it when I'm joining two sections together, but especially when it's a long seam, I will dedicate a lot more time at making sure that I get these points right, because otherwise, again, it's a sad panda day when it doesn't work out and you have to tear it apart. Again, for these kits, we're using a very short seam allowance because it allows us to kind of rip the paper off a lot easier. So now that I have everything in place, I go ahead and remove it and replace everything with clips just because I prefer clips. I leave that first one there. And if you wanted to do a sanity check, you can kind of take a peek to see if things are going to kind of line up. It's looking good. So now I will take the final pin off. I will hold that in place. I'm going to take it to my sewing machine right here, which is off camera. You can't see. Fun little scissors are, so I get that out of the way. Now for the final touch, bring my little wool mat over. Before I open it up, before I press it, I do go ahead and just rip the paper off the seams. Now, normally I could just rip all of the paper off, but I intend to use this one for a class, so I'm going to keep the major pieces off, but I do rip the seams off so that I get a flatter iron. For some people, this is like their favorite part, is ripping the paper off. There's just something very satisfactory about doing that, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm one of those people. So we just go ahead and rip. And again, make sure when you're doing this, you're ripping the paper off of the fabric, not the fabric off the paper. I think that makes sense more when you're actually doing this, meaning like we're not like pulling the fabric away from the paper. You are holding everything down with one hand and you are just ripping the top off. And that's why we have a short stitch. I think I said seam allowance earlier. Short stitch, because it makes it easier to rip that off. So now I go ahead, and this poor seam has been through a lot. I know the back of this piece can kind of scare you because it looks like a lot, and it is. And I validate your feelings, and I think it's perfectly okay to feel that way. And then I open it up, and you can see we'll go ahead and press along my poor flamingo's neck. And if you have a clapper, like one of the wooden clapper, which for some of you are not familiar, it's just basically a big block of wood that, you know, it's kind of heavy and it retains the heat really well. And basically, after you iron it, you could put your clapper on here to help just those seams relax a little bit more. So if you have a clapper, that's great. But otherwise, here is your flamingo. This is your bit of flamingo, and look at that line. So this is what we just finished sewing, this last little bit. As you can see, those seams are pretty dang good, and this is what we'll be doing in the class. So here's the back, and do not be afraid. I will help you, and we will get through this together, and then we'll be able to do more. So that is your bit of flamingo. I'm Glow, and I will put information on future classes that I'll be holding in the comments. So thank you.